Welcome to the Change Podcast. I'm your host, David Griffiths, and today we have the talented Katherine Norland with us. Actress, writer, producer, poet, and YouTuber, Katherine's impressive journey has led her to over 60 movies and TV series. And you and your children have probably seen her on the ever so popular DHAR MANN series of family-friendly YouTube videos. She's won awards for her outstanding performances, and her YouTube channel is a source of motivation for thousands. Stay tuned for an exclusive chat with Katherine about her fascinating career and what she's learned in her faith journey that will help you find the courage to pursue your dreams and change your life. Good morning, family. Today we have a very special guest that I was very privileged to meet at a conference recently in Florida. And I know that you all are going to be so blessed by what she has to share. She's done so many great things in her career. I believe she's appeared in 60 between the television shows and movies. She's been an actress, she's an author, she's a coach. She loves the Lord, and I am excited to be able to share Katherine Norland with you this day. Welcome, Katherine.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited for you asking me to come on today.
Well, you have an energy. Of course, I have in my mind this dance competition that was on the stage at the conference and how you crushed it and everyone was like, wow! But you have an energy about you that is contagious and infectious. And,
oh, thank you.
And you have a big heart. And my podcast is called Change, and people in my community are really about change. How do we change ourselves, and how do we change the world around us? And you seem to be an agent of change. So first of all, for someone who's not met you before today, who is Katherine Norland?
So many things. Agent of change is what you just called me. I had somebody recently call me an angel of change. I was like, oh, okay, I'll take that.
Yes.
Really, I'm an actress, award-winning actress, a best-selling author with 5 books. I'm a mom of 2 boys, both premature. One is got several special needs. Did I already say wife? A life coach. I call myself an encouragement coach, and transformational motivational speaker. And yeah, that's the main things.
Whoa. Okay. So let's unpack. That's enough for an hour and a half, interview with Barbara Walters or something. But let's take a look. You don't call yourself a coach. You call yourself an
encouragement coach, not a life coach. I call myself an encouragement coach, which does help with your life, but
What does it mean to be an encouragement coach?
Well, I think so many people are beat down in life, and it just feels like we're just these little ants, and we're going against these big football teams in life that are just ready to crush us. And everywhere we turn, even from friends and family, we've got everybody telling us why we can't, why we shouldn't, why we need to be careful, why it's not a good idea to go for our dreams. So I'm like that little voice encouraging you to keep going, to, go over your obstacles, to go around, to find a way through. And I have over 700 videos on my YouTube channel encouraging people, like life coaching them to go for their dreams and how to get over other people's opinions and how to find a way through and how to see yourself in a different light. And then speaking of change, I feel like that's the number one thing that would change the world and change us is by our perception. How do we see the world? How do we see ourselves affects how we see the world. Which is why the You Are Worthy book was so paramount for me to get out, because it wasn't until I was able to change my outlook, change my view. For instance, as an actress in Hollywood, it's a high standard of beauty. And from someone who had very low self-esteem, self-worth issues, and was trying to fit into this mold to be what they wanted me to be, and I never could. Changing my outlook. When you change your, as I say in my book, when you change your outlook, you don't have to change your outward looks.
So when you change your outlook, like the way that you frame things, you mean? Then you don't have to change that you look, how you look.
Yeah, like so many, it's even hard for guys now. Like, if you don't have 6-pack abs, forget it. The standards of beauty are really quite ridiculous. I've been fired from TV shows. I've had directors come up and grab my underarms and shake it. And what is this? I've had them pinch my, jelly rolls. I had them hit me in the stomach. Lose this or you're not going to be on the show. I've been fired off of TV show for being too fat. I've been the top choice to be cast, but because they already bought the costume, I didn't get the role because it was a smaller size than me. Just all the, like, I had a director put his hand on my shoulder once and say, geez, you're like a linebacker. Like, insult after insult. I mean, that's just scratching the surface.
What?
It's being judged solely about your outer appearance or your voice or things like this has a way of like knocking you down. And you begin to think, maybe that's the only thing that's important about me. And I, in this day and age, I see that permeated, not just in Hollywood, but if you look on social media, you start scrolling through, all the girls are starting to look the exact same. Like, you can't tell one girl from the next because they've all had all the procedures. And like, you're like, is that the same person? I've seen like group shots of girls and they all look the same. Like, they all had the same cheek injections and lip injections and whatever else they're doing. And I'm like, can't even tell. You guys are all like little Barbie robots or something. I don't know.
I'm afraid when I look at our society today and a lot of things that are going on, I honestly am afraid for our children. I have a 19-year-old son and a 9-year-old daughter, and I move to tears when I look at some of the things that they have to deal with that I didn't really have to deal with growing up.
Yeah.
And so what you're saying, it's horrible to hear that you've gone through that in your journey as an actress and in Hollywood. And then it just seems to have spilled out now that all of us become content creators, as it were, on social media. It's spilled out over our whole society in a way that is so destructive to self-esteem. I want to know a little bit more about what you talk about in your book, You Are Worthy.
Well, I think it really starts with our view of ourselves, and we can't get a proper view of ourselves until we can see through the lens which God sees us. He says that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. Yeah. He says your gray hair is a crown of glory. He says he knew you before you were in your mother's womb. Yeah. So if you just even think about that and you pull that back, all these things that we get judged on outwardly in the entertainment industry or any other way, being told that you're fat or being called, ugly or whatever it is. If you think about it, I talk about how that's not even who we are. This is just an earth suit that we're living in here on earth. It's not who we are. So many times we're very hard on ourselves. I talk about in the You Are Worthy book, for example, using things against yourself that are harmful and not helpful. So even if there is, let's say, something about your physical body that you're living in on earth that needs some change, how you frame it, how you perceive it, and how you speak about yourself and to yourself makes a big difference. So it like, for instance, if you say, I'm fat, I am so fat, and it really pierces, it really stings, because when you say, I am, those of us in the Christian community know those are the two most powerful words, because anything that follows that, you're getting locked in. When in the Old Testament, when they asked God, who are you? He said, I am. And whatever we say that follows I am is like so paramount. So you never want to go around saying, I am stupid, I am fat, I am whatever negative thing. So when you say I am fat, that's a value judgment against who we are as a person. Instead, I would say to reframe it. I talk about saying instead, well, my doctor says my body needs to shed some pounds for some health and longevity so I can be healthy and disease-free on this earth long enough to fulfill my mission and my calling. And, taking it out of the realm of I am and saying, well, my body needs to shed some of this excess weight. It's a whole different way of looking at it. Looking at it as it's not who I am. It's the earth suit I live in here on earth. Just like a house that you live in, most people don't judge you by the house you live in, or it's not as painful. It's not as painful to go, gosh, I need a new coat of paint on my house, or I need to scrape off the old stuff. But for some reason, we take it so personally when someone says something about our outer shell, even though that is not even who we are. So if he knew us before he placed us in our mother's womb, that means we're not this skin suit that we're in right now. So when people insult us about that, we just have to realize, wow, it's not really us, it's them. They have the issue, it's their projection. And they're putting it on me because for whatever reason, maybe they don't feel good about themselves or whatever it is. And it's so much easier than to let it roll off your back.
Thank you. I know I've been one who struggled with my weight and watch hundreds of YouTube video advising about, well, it's about toxicity. It's not just about burning calories. And then I've had success, and then I've had days where I haven't been so successful. And I realized if my identity, my worth, my happiness is just based upon whether I'm winning or losing in that battle, then my life is going to be a roller coaster.
And it's depressing.
Yes.
And also what you focus on expands. What you think about, you bring about. So I think if we just focus on being happy, fulfilling our mission, our relationship with God, because think about it, David, when you're going down the street and you see a homeless person and they're cold and they're hungry and you give them a blanket and you give them a sandwich, they're not going, oh, I'm not going to take that from you. You're a fatty. They are so happy. They are so grateful. They are so fit. It's not about that. So we're putting this pressure on ourselves and we're thinking, well, this is keeping me from my calling. This is keeping me from being everything God wants me to be. And it's not. It's not. And I say, like, I have a poem in here called Earth Suit Envy, and also another one about getting old and aging. And I have a line in here and I say, if I have lived my call and exchanged my life for his, it's immaterial what size my casket is.
Wow. Okay, so people should know, if they don't yet, you are a poet. You are a poet.
Yes, that's my first love. I
Really?
love. That's my first love. I would like only write poetry. It took me quite a lot to do the You Are Worthy book, where I actually had to put real sentences together.
Oh wow. You prefer poetry?
I prefer poetry. I have like ideas for at least 20 more poetry books. I like eat, sleep, breathe poetry. I love it so much.
So what are the titles of your poetry books so far?
Thus far.
Dive into your.
So the one that's kind of on topic is what we're talking about right now, Poetic Prescriptions for Eternal Youth. This is about examining earthly beauty from a heavenly perspective. And this is kind of where I initially shared my struggles with body image, with seeing myself in the correct view. This is kind of what spawned the You Are Worthy book, was this poetry book. And then I have Poetic Prescriptions for Plaguing Problems. This is biblical remedies for when life bites. And I use the visual metaphors in here of like the 10 plagues and other plagues we've gone through to tie into, give visual representations for just real life struggles that we struggle with. For instance, I talk about the plague of locusts, and I tie that into when you like you have like this infatuation with someone or this lust, and it consumes everything, just like locust will eat everything in your crop and leave you with nothing left. So I just
Wow.
use different plagues to talk about all the stuff that we struggle with on a daily basis in life. That just gives it a fun visual. This is the first book I ever wrote. It was Poetic Prescriptions for Pesky Problems. And I just revised it. This is the second edition. I revised it during COVID. So I rewrote all 77 poems and added 7 new ones. So those are my 3 poetry books. I helped my dad write a memoir book this year about his life and his journey growing up. So I'm like co-author on that. It's called The 100 Heir. You've heard of The Millionaire, but this is
Yeah.
for people who are not millionaires. The 100 Heir.
Oh,
A
wow.
memoir. Yeah, it's a memoir of generosity from the house painter next door. My dad painted houses for a living, and sometimes he felt like people would judge him because he didn't have a big fancy job and we didn't always have a lot of money. And so he shares all these stories in there that are really, really beautiful about how you can be generous and kind to others, even if you don't have a lot to give. So that's the poetry and the memoir. And then, of course, my latest is You Are Worthy.
How did you get all this wisdom? How is it that you learned all this stuff? You know, like what life experience really got you to the point where you said, you know what, I'm going to frame things this way, and I'm going to share with others what I've learned by this new practice of looking at life situations and problems and myself through a different lens. Hey fam, today's episode is brought to us by Content Creating Academy. Content Creating Academy was founded to help faith-based entrepreneurs and service providers connect with the people that they want to serve. I know what it's like to be on social media and not get anyone's attention. But fortunately for me, I got a coach and I got some strategies that helped me to get to over 1.5 million followers. And me and my team would like to help you. And so if you need help getting more clients for your business, please contact us at contentcreatingacademy.com. Click the link to set up a free discovery session, and we'll help get you back on track. All right, let's get back to our episode.
To be honest, it really has to do with all the time I spent having my quiet time with God, having my time with the Lord in the mornings and going to Him with my journals and just crying my eyes out and writing in my journals about how hopeless I felt and how awful I felt and how I thought I was never going to make it. I would just have these poems pour out of me about basically how life sucks. And then there was some point in my life where I felt like God spoke to me and said, well, you're putting all these problems out in the world, but how is that going to help people? Like, what are the solutions to these problems? And that's how the Poetic Prescription series was born, where I prescribe poetry instead of pills to cure your emotional and spiritual ills. It really is about reframing things, and you still have the problems, but now how do we overcome them? How do we get through and over and above? And what if it is as simple as just looking at things from a different perspective? There's a little short poem. I don't even know who the author is. It's like 2 lines. And I think it illustrates it so beautifully. It says, 2 men looked out of the jail cell bars. One saw the mud, one saw the stars. And that's like really like life. We could, whatever situation you're in, no matter how terrible, if you're locked up, if you've had the most horrendous, awful thing happen to you, what are you now looking at? Are you looking at the mud? Are you looking at all the reasons your life sucks and everything is going wrong and nothing's ever going to be good? Are you looking up at the stars? Are you looking at the possibilities? Are you looking at what you can turn this into? Are you looking at how you can form a ministry and a purpose out of this? I read recently in a book, I don't remember which book it was. It might have been The Trance of Scarcity, but it was saying something about your triggers reveal your wounds. Your wounds reveal your path. Your path reveals your destiny or your purpose or something like that. So if we just start to pay attention to, where do I get hurt? Where do I get angry? Where do I get upset? And we peel back those layers. And we are able to pull that sliver out, that painful thing that happened in our past. I talk about this in my online course, You Are Worthy. I have a section called The Divine Solution. And it goes through, like, if you have a lot of pain in your past, how do you get over it? A lot of times when we've had something happen to us and we don't want to talk about it and it triggers us and it makes us angry, we don't want to address it, or maybe we don't even know what it is. Like, it's almost like if you have like a sliver in your hand, but it happened so long ago, it's like covered over with skin, you don't really see it. But when it gets bumped, it's red, it's irritated, maybe it's festering. So what we do, because we want to look good to the world, we don't want to tell anyone we've been through anything, we put a glove on our hand, or we cover it up with makeup. But it hurts, and every time something triggers it or we're bumped, we start acting like a crazy person. We lose our temper, we get angry, we cry, we sob, we get depressed, and it's all because we haven't dealt with that thing. And, pulling it out, discovering what that is, discerning, like, what do we need to do? How do we need to fix it? We need to get with God. We need to spill this out. Like you saw me at the conference when I ran into someone who had a hat on that said NICUpreneur. I have a lot of wounds and pain around the premature births of my son. I had the people saying, it's your fault. You shouldn't have done this. You should have eaten more protein. You shouldn't have lifted anything heavy. You are working too hard. You like blaming me for the premature birth of my son and all. Like, I have so much pain around that I haven't dealt with that. I think you were there when I started crying when I was talking about some of it. That is a perfect example of I'm like, well, I'm busy. I got all this stuff going on in life. I'm like, when I hop off the call with you, I'm going to set, I'm acting, I'm writing books, I'm functioning, kind of like a functioning alcoholic. Like, I can get through my day, but the truth is I won't be 100% fully healed until I deal with that. So it's interesting how in your life, whatever you haven't dealt with, you're going to keep running across people in your path that's pointing out to you like this direction, like those people at the airport or the people, the valets with the light up wands showing you go this way, park this way. Yeah. There's stuff God is speaking to you that he wants you to deal with, and you keep avoiding it. But you're never going to have peace, and you're never going to break those shackles off your life and have freedom until you deal with that thing head on, the good, the bad, the ugly. If you need to take 2 days, 3 days off of work and just get in there with God, cry about it, talk about it. So this came up at 4 times in the last 4 weeks for me, where people came across my path that triggered that. So finally, at the last mastermind I went to, I said, you know what? I drove to Las Vegas. On the drive home, I'm just going to try to get this out of my system. I turned on my voice recorder and I started talking about all the pain, all the triggers around it, all the drama, all the accusations, the people that were like, oh, the reason you can't give milk, because I was trying to breastfeed, but I had him in the 2nd trimester, so I wasn't even in the 3rd trimester to be able to do it. And I had people saying things to me like, well, if you really cared about your son, you'd be able to produce milk. And then I would be in my room sobbing and upset and like, God, don't I care about him? Is, just in pain and torment. And so I was like, I just talked about everything, and I recorded myself on this drive home, and I'm crying, and I let myself scream and get angry and get it out of my system and pray about it. And it really helped remove some of those layers. Like, I don't feel like the sliver is totally out, but I'm making progress now. I can tell it's still a wound and not a scar, because I can feel that part of me that still gets worked up and anxious and feels like crying. So that's another good sign for you and your audience. If you're really healed, you can talk about the thing that you've been through to help others, but you can talk about it without the trauma response. You can talk about it from a healed scar place where you're like, yeah, I see the scar and it was awful and I would never wish that upon anyone, but here's what I learned from it and here's what I went through. And this is why I'm sharing this with you, right? Because the scripture says we overcome the devil by by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony.
Yeah.
So you guys, you've all been through something that could help others, but you have to get over it first to the point where you're healed enough to talk about it, to be a blessing to others, to let them know you are not alone. You're not alone.
Wow, Katherine. Thank you so much. I want to make sure that I have that. It's your triggers are because of your wounds. Your wounds are because of your path. Is it? And then
Yeah, your wounds reveal your path.
Yeah. And then your path reveals your
purpose or your destiny. I can't remember the exact quote, but it reveals what's your purpose, your path, your testimony.
Wow. Thank you for your transparency. I'm sure there's so many people who are resonating right now with what you've been sharing. We could talk. I know you have places to be, and I'm so grateful you took time out to talk with us today. Please let my audience know, how can we connect with you? How can we get that wonderful book or any courses or coaching that you offer? How can we connect with you?
Oh, thank you. Yes, the You Are Worthy book is on Amazon. It's available there. I have a website that shows my other books. It's poeticprescriptions.com. And if you want to get this book, I'll give it to your audience for free. You can get a free download of Poetic Prescriptions for Eternal Youth by going to Poetic Prescriptions, just like it's spelled, .com/free book. And to get a taste of my online course called You Are Worthy, which is a deeper dive into this topic we were talking about, you can go to free gift from CoachCat.com, and you'll be able to see 3 videos out of that, 3 videos that are deep and moving and touching that will help you really get through that. And can I close us out with a poem?
Please.
Okay.
Please.
So just because it just reminded me, because this is on topic with what we're talking about, the things that make you mad, the things that trigger you, maybe you don't know this, but that could be the thing that is tied into your calling and purpose in life. So I wrote this poem. It's in the book Poetic Prescriptions for Plaguing Problems, and it's called Rising Up. So what do you need to do to rise up when those triggers hit you, when those things make you mad? Is that an indication of your path and your purpose? Rising up. Do you feel anger rising up? What gets you steaming mad? It's time to make a list. Get out your pen and pad. What are all the injustices that fully set you off? Discover every one. Pray tell, what makes you wroth? Is it domestic violence, children who are beaten, graffiti on the walls, the homeless who've not eaten? Is it the elderly defrauded or snuffed out preborn life? Those nations starved by drought, internet scams, gang strife, or how the government is run, civil rights, gendercide, humans being trafficked, or veteran suicide? Is it all the unhealthy grub they've marketed to kids, or is it just finding an easier way to pop off stubborn lids? If you're livid, what's the cause? How can it be resolved? You'll find in life your mission's tied to problems you want solved.
Wow. Thank you.
Yeah. There's some people have never thought, this thing that pisses me off might just be part of my purpose.
Yeah, and it's beautiful because we can see that we were formed or shaped in a way that made us perfect for our assignment. We're sensitive to the things that we are tooled or positioned to bring healing towards or to fix. So
yeah,
wonderful. Thank you. I would be remiss if I didn't mention, especially for many of the younger ones in my audience, if someone thinks that they've seen you before, Where might they perhaps recently have seen you?
So I am a series regular on the hit YouTube show DHAR MANN, which has garnered over 40 billion views on that show, on that content.
How many?
40 billion views it's had.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what is that like? I mean, like,
It's so fun. I love it. I was an actress in Hollywood. I was pursuing acting for 20 years before I stumbled upon this show. And I was at the point where I told God, I'm done. I'm done acting. I'm done with this superficial industry. I'm done with being in movies that I don't care about. I'm done with going to auditions for like lesbian zombie werewolves in prison. Why do I want to be a werewolf in prison anyway? Like weird, like movies that they're asking me to audition for. And it's like, this is not what I want my legacy to be. It just getting offered such weird roles, or even if I did get like in a big movie, like maybe I'm in a movie with movie stars, but I'm the waitress saying, here's your water, sir. Like, I just felt like I just got tired of, like, I've been on over 800 auditions and just the grind, like maybe I'm submitting myself to 100 roles a day. Maybe I get, 10 auditions a week, and you're going and you're preparing and you're driving and you're paying for daycare to go spend 2 minutes in a room to be judged, not necessarily by your talent, but how you look, and like all this crazy stuff. And at one point, it was 2018, and I said, God, I'm done acting. This is not fulfilling. I want to help people. If that means I'm just a writer and I'm helping people, whatever. And then I got this audition for DHAR MANN. I had no idea what it was. I went and shot one, and I was like, okay, well, that was fun. I just assumed it was like just another short film. And then they called me back again, and they called me back again, and they called me back again. And now I've shot at least 160 of these. And for those of you who don't know what DHAR MANN is, DHAR MANN, it's kind of like back in our day, we had after school specials, and they would teach kids like life lessons, like how not to judge others, how to be, how to be kind and not judge a book by its cover, and just really nice lessons on again, perception. What you see about this person may not be the truth, and maybe there's something going on in their life. So before you're quick to judge them, how about you get to know them and get to know their story and get to know why they're doing what they're doing. So it's been really fulfilling because I feel like it's right, like in the same lane as my purpose of helping people. And I'm not just doing silly, flippant things where they're saying, you need to lose 40 pounds to be in a bikini for this scene. Like, really, I'm doing what's important. I can't tell you the number of people who've reached out to me and have found hope and inspiration and finally felt like they belong, or like they've been seen and someone understands them. I've even had people tell me they decided not to commit suicide because of, both my work as a writer and my work in DHAR MANN. So I feel like it goes hand in hand. It's a beautiful meld.
Well, we are grateful for the way that you share your gifts with the body of Christ and beyond. Thank you for your heart, your vulnerability and transparency, and the healing that already has brought, even leading people to stop wanting to take their lives. And I'm looking forward to seeing even more examples of how, because you have looked at yourself with honesty, you've taken your pain and you've changed it into purpose and created tools through your books or your training to be able to help people have a better life. I'm grateful for you, and I look forward to seeing how else God will mightily use you in the future.
Thank you, David. It was an honor to be on your show.
Well, thank you, family. Don't forget to visit Katherine and her social media. What are your social media handles, by the way?
On YouTube and Instagram, it's Katherine Norland. And on TikTok and Facebook, it's Kat Norland, KatNorland.
Beautiful. We will be sure to catch her there, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Thank you so much. Make it a great day. Take care.